Everyone, welcome to Two Doulas and a Midwife. I'm Lisa Houghton, doula in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I'm joined, of course, by Sharon and Danielle. And we are going to be talking about the 36-week mark, so moving into the big day. We did talk about it last week, but we just got so much more to say about it. Sharon's very informative and is going to walk us through that last few weeks and what to expect, when to look out for labor, what your body is doing. It's just very exciting. It's a wonderful time. And I know with a lot of moms, it does seem to take for 3 months in those last 4 weeks, but it really is your body just preparing, getting ready, and going full steam to that last important day when you get to meet your baby. So, Danielle, if you want to introduce yourself, and then Sharon, and then we can get started. Sharon, you can take us straight into that 36-week mark and your thoughts.
Okay. Thanks so much, Lisa, and always so lovely to be with you ladies. I enjoyed this so much, one of the best parts of my day. And so I'm Danielle Kapanek, also a doula in Johannesburg, South Africa. Absolutely passionate about being with families leading up towards their big days and helping them through that process of meeting their babies and becoming parents. So, Sharon, please introduce your lovely self and then delve into what we can do to prepare for those last few weeks before we have our babies.
Thank you, everybody. So I am Sharon Marseille. I'm an independent midwife working in Johannesburg, northern suburbs of Gauteng. And we started by looking at the 36-week mark and really the build-up of excitement and positivity, I hope, towards the impending birth of a baby. What a wonderful thought. What a wonderful thing to journal about. But if we're going to try and stick to the 36-week mark and everything that happens here, it's such a major milestone. And it can be so exciting for a woman because her body starts to present the idea of giving birth. And that means it's going to notice all sorts of changes taking place. First of all, we talked about how the uterus is round until 36 weeks, and then it develops the lower segment so that the baby can engage. And when a baby engages, we're talking about the widest part of the baby's head here, where the hat would sit, going into the brim of the pelvis. Do I need to get my pelvis?
You can, if you want to. It'd be wonderful.
Okay. Hold that for a bit, because I'm right here with it. Agnes is here with her placenta. Okay, you know, midwives can't talk without a pelvis in their hands. So Agnes is going to demonstrate. Here she is. This is her head. The widest part of her head here is going to go into the brim here of the pelvis. The brim being this part. This part has got nothing to do with childbirth. This is just the means by which you're steered round a dance hall. This bit. This bit is the part that has to do with childbirth. And the wonderful thing about childbirth is that at 36 weeks, your pelvis is going to start to unlock. Your uterus is going to start changing shape. So you're going to feel it all in the pelvic girdle. Every cartilage, every ligament that connects the pelvis is going to start to soften until eventually it becomes like chewing gum. So that these bones here in labor can travel a centimeter in each direction in order to loosen the pelvis and give the baby space to get through. The sacrum, this part at the back here, is going to lift in labor 2 centimeters up in the air. And your coccyx is going to come right back at a 90-degree angle like that, so that the baby can get out of your body in this direction, which would mean you would be on your hands and knees to give birth, which is an ideal position for birthing in. So she's going to notice then backache and period pains, because remember, if the uterus is changing shape too, so that the baby can engage at 36 weeks, then she's going to notice that in the lower part of her body. And so we talk about period pains because that should be a familiar experience, though it was, so long in the past she can't remember. Period pains as a familiar experience for most women. So she can tick that box and get excited. Look at me, my body is developing. And then if she were to explore her own cervix, and again, last week we were looking at how that is so possible for so many women, those women who are going to think, oh no, mustn't do that, must consider that in days gone by, when you would have an intrauterine contraceptive device, you would have had strings coming through the cervix that you would have to check that they're still there and hasn't wandered off somewhere. Or if you were using a Dutch cap or a cervical cap, then again, you would be able to apply it to the cervix. So it is not an unusual thing for a woman to check her own cervix. And if she was going to do that, she wouldn't lie on her back to do it, because the cervix then is going to fall into a posterior place and she won't be able to reach it. But if she's in an upright direction, squatting, hopefully with the wall behind her so she's not going to fall over, injure something, she could do it on the loo if the loo was clean. She could do it in a squatting position, and she would lean forward and track the vagina until she can find the cervix at the back. The vagina being a blind-ended tunnel, there is only a cervix in it. And to start with, it's going to be in a posterior position, pointing towards her sacrum. It sits here, it points towards the sacrum. It's going to come forward until it's going to come forward like this into an anterior position, leaning forwards, so the baby can come from the uterus out of the birthing canal. So one of the protective mechanisms is to keep the cervix pointing backwards so that the baby doesn't just fall out of a channel. It's not just here's your body and babies just fall out. It is so many protective mechanisms. The shape of her uterus, if she looks at the shape of her uterus and the shape of her belly, if you like, until 36 weeks, the highest point is up here between her ribs, and her baby's bum, hopefully, and not the head, is up here between her ribs, and she needs to get tall enough in order to breathe. She's going to find digestion hard. Everything slows down digestively, which is why a raw diet is such a good idea at 36 weeks. But she's more likely to get constipated because the bowel is slowing down and because it's under so much pressure from this full uterus. But if the baby then engages, the head has dropped. A most unfortunate expression. We have dropped the baby. But the baby's head goes into the pelvis, and so the bum drops down lower. Now she can digest more easily. She can breathe more easily, but she's going to walk like John Wayne because she's got a head in her pelvis. And everybody, when she's in Pick and Pay, will scatter when she's walking like that because they think, oh, pregnant woman, that baby's going to drop out at any moment. And people say scary things like that to her. And that's why, again, if she checks her own cervix, she can see whether the cervix is closed or the cervix is moving. As the head comes down, so the cervix is displaced again. So it's a moving target until the baby moves their way down. How does a baby do that? Not just by the effort of the baby. And remember, the baby is making the effort. So the baby will kick at the top and mine their way down, like drill, like that. And that's what it feels like to the mother, pushing up at the top with the feet and working their way down into the pelvis. But in addition to that, she's got the Braxton Hicks contractions. Everybody gets confused about Braxton Hicks contractions. Danielle?
So just before we get into that, If
Yeah.
at what point can we start feeling that cervix becoming more anterior, and
Yeah.
how, and then in terms of our timelines, is there, if she feels like, wow, like yesterday I really had to reach all the way behind me, and now today it has moved, I can reach it much easier now. In terms of like a timeline, or what can we expect, if she can really feel that her cervix has moved into a much more anterior position?
Now that is a lovely question, because of course it depends on what number baby you are having. If this is
Mm.
your first baby, then the ripening process is a slow process. It's like having a green mango turn into one of those mushy things that you can only eat in the bath. That's what you want the cervix to do. It's going to become from the firm consistency of your nose to be all mushy, like your mouth. So it's going to relax first of all, and then it's going to dilate. So with a first time mum, the cervix is a long, thick, funnel shaped body that is going to relax first of all, then it's going to efface. That means it is brought up until it is flat, and then it's going to dilate. With anybody who's had a baby before, though, the cervix never closes completely as it was before. So it
Mm.
is always, it has a potential space that you can feel if you've had a baby before. And so it's going to relax, efface, and dilate at the same time, because no matter what your body has experienced from a laboring or contracting stance, it has a memory, and it's terribly keen to pick up on the bit that it left off at and to progress from there. So it gets very excited. So first time mums then tend to be a slow progress. And unless there is an infection or some sort of illness, disease, in which case that is going to affect her labor. That's why preemie babies come fast. If she's going to go into labor because of some sort of infection, it's a protective mechanism to get the baby out into a possibly and hopefully a safer environment without the infection or the disease that could be affecting the baby, and into the hands of somebody who can recover the baby and put them in a safer place. Of course, for most people, the safest place that a baby can be is inside the mother's body. The mother's body is regulating the temperature of the baby, is keeping the baby free and safe from infection. And so it would be in the greatest minimal situation that that would need to happen. And that's why, we don't hear of women dropping babies. Imagine if that were to happen. So the reason that you feel all these sensations that, did I answer your question, Danielle? Spreadsheet question, did I answer it?
I think, also to chat about the timeline, how.
Yes, because you see that if you know that every single woman is different. And the only reason that you would want to check on your cervix is to see, so is it firm? In which case, I'm not having this baby today. Or is it doing something? If it's doing something, there's no way of knowing how long is that piece of string. She just knows that she is ripening, that she is progressing, that she's moving towards. And so therefore she would want to think, so how ready am I in other ways? Is there last minute shopping I have to do if I am ripening? Is there journaling that I need to do if I am going to be approaching my labor? Is my partner ready? Does he know how to rub my back or how to produce oxytocin in me? It's all those thoughts of, well, it should be a reassuring thing to consider, well, it means I'm not going to be pregnant forever. You know how every pregnant woman thinks, well, what if I'm the one that doesn't go into labor? What if I end up in the Guinness Book of Records because labor didn't come to me? We think like that as women. So if we can check our own cervixes and know this is ripening, things are changing, I am moving towards that mark. It doesn't matter how long or how short. It just means that progress is being made, and I don't need to worry about it. And also, if we're looking at trying to avoid induction, if we know I am ripening, maybe I'm 39 weeks and the cervix is still closed, maybe I want to go for acupuncture. Maybe I want to go and see my homeopath and see what else can I do to ripen this body quicker, because maybe I've only got 2 weeks left for somebody who is marking that moment of what is conceived to be normal, and particularly that rude word of induction that we tend to banter about, that all of us want to avoid.
I was, pushing the question. I was just very interested because I'd had a client who was trying for a VBAC, and so the gynae didn't want to do a full medical induction because it is much more aggressive on the uterus, and so we tried everything in terms of natural induction. We did reflexology, we did our homeopathy, I encouraged lots of intimacy, everything. We really tried everything. And at the end, when she went in at 40 weeks, her cervix was still so posterior and so closed that the gynae tried to do a Foley bulb induction to insert the Foley bulb catheter, as it's a much more gentle method of induction, and it just fell out because it was really so she ended up having a repeat C-section because that cervix was just not ready. Baby was just not ready to be born yet. So,
and her body had no memory of it because she had had a Caesar before.
Yeah. Well,
but also, though, we need to look at the reason for the cesarean section the first time. A VBAC being a vaginal birth after cesarean section.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're looking at those mums who possibly had an elective section the first time because they had gone in a medical model choice, progressive way of maternity care, if she had gone that way, and if she had just perhaps been frightened and somebody had said, look, I can book you in for a cesarean section and you don't have to worry about that labor thing and you're not going to feel a thing, it's going to be painless, and I can just remove the baby from your body and you can put it in your diary and you can organize your maternity leave. And so many women are convinced that that is a good choice. They think they're making an informed choice. And then after giving birth or having her baby, she might think, I wonder what I missed out on. I wonder if I could have, because it wasn't painless. I needed major drugs for pain relief after that surgery. And it took me weeks to recover my body after that surgery. And breastfeeding was more difficult because the pain of moving my body and trying to get a baby to the breast was more difficult. And so I had problems with that. I had problems with bonding because I didn't have the oxytocin flowing in my body. And I want to know, from a physical point of view, what did I miss out on? And so those mums who want to try and have a vaginal birth the next time, who were taken away from the early labor preparation of ripening a cervix, are going to battle with a vaginal birth after cesarean section because the cervix has never ripened. So it doesn't have a memory, like Lisa is saying. The body has no memory of labor. But those mums who had any kind of labor, is good for her body, is good for her baby. And of course, we look at the baby being the director of the birth. It's the baby who triggers the labor. When the stars are right in the sky for that child to be born because of their destiny on earth, the baby triggers the labor and the mother's body responds to the baby's trigger. if the baby is triggering and the mother is not able to respond because she is not well or some other reason, she's got a blockage in her energy fields, and
The
she's
fear
producing the
can
hormones,
take
but then
over.
that fear is the greatest blockage. And that's why journaling is so fantastic. If she's going to address herself in a private way, she doesn't have to discuss it if she doesn't want to with anybody. But if she's addressing herself, then she can let go of those fears and unblock her body and enable it to receive the trigger that the baby is sending out. We've lost Danielle. And so in that case, if there is a blockage of that nature, acupuncture is fantastic, because then it will just remove the blockage and the energy will flow through. The hormones that are produced in her brain will connect with her uterus and her uterus will respond. So any kind of labor at all is good if she is planning a VBAC. And of course, so many mums are not planning a VBAC when they're having their first baby. But it should be, if we're going to give people an informed choice, it means if I am presenting the option of a cesarean section, an elective cesarean section, then I need to talk to her about the possibility of her next labor, her next birth, because at some point she's going to be aware of wanting to have another baby and the impact of her choices before. So we need to look at, and now we're going off the rails again, because we need to look at what is an informed choice. In hospital, we talk about an informed choice all the time, but we never give women an informed choice. An informed choice means I'm going to give you both sides of this coin. If you choose this, this is the upside, this is the downside, this is what could happen. If you choose this, this is the upside, this is the downside. How do you feel about both of these choices? And can we discuss it? Rather than, well, if you're sensible or if you're responsible, you're going to have this, and there we are. I've informed you, and now you're making a choice. That's not an informed choice. So we need to really spend time with women. Sheila Kitzinger told us that the most common loss, the most common request of women when they're pregnant is information, is time spent with a caregiver so that they can ask questions and have their questions and fears addressed so they feel confident and ready to give birth to their babies. So then the cervix is going to ripen, the baby's going to engage, she's going to notice Braxton Hicks contractions. Now, Braxton Hicks contractions have been going on her whole life. She has been having contractions of her uterus since she has been aware of periods. When she was having a menstrual cycle, it was her uterus contracting and squeezing out the menses and producing a period. When she was getting pregnant, it was her uterus contracting and sucking up the semen and making her pregnant. So her uterus has been contracting all the time. Some women are aware of their uterus contracting when they are not pregnant because they have period pains and because they have awareness once, they're having sex, oxytocin is produced, and so it contracts the uterus. Now, when she gets to 12 weeks of her pregnancy, the uterus is now presenting itself in an abdominal way. She can feel her uterus. Her uterus is going to be, if it's on track for the gestational mark, she will be able to feel it just above her pubic bone. She will find a round body just above her pubic bone. And that's when we are able, if we have a sonic aid, we're able to listen to the fetal heart for the first time at that point. And so as soon as she can feel, as soon as the uterus comes in contact with her abdominal wall, she can now feel the power of the uterus. And to start with, these contractions, these Braxton Hicks contractions, and all midwives get annoyed with Braxton Hicks because, midwives have been aware of contractions since Eve gave birth to the boys. But then Braxton Hicks, the doctor, came along and noticed and thought, I'll just put my name to this. So we're very grateful to Braxton Hicks for his wisdom. And what he discovered was that the uterus contracts all the time. And so to start with, then, her Braxton Hicks contractions will be painless. That is the nature of a Braxton Hicks contraction. She will notice usually when she gets into the bath that her belly has gone all hard. Or if she's doing exercise, her belly has gone all hard. And she'll say, oh, look at this, my belly's gone all hard. And that's the Braxton Hicks contraction. That means that her uterus is practicing for labor. And again, what an exciting thing that she knows. My uterus knows what it's doing. I can trust it. I am preparing in some way physically for labor. So I better catch up mentally and emotionally and be ready in all ways for this child arriving.
I think that's a big point that we need to cover as well, is that trust. We need to trust our bodies. And with the Braxton Hicks especially, shift your thoughts, shift your beliefs. This is nature doing its thing. Trust. Just trust. You don't have to do anything.
Positive connections with the Braxton Hicks contractions, because if it's telling you my body is preparing, then it means, okay, so I'm not going to be pregnant forever. Then it means also, well, if my body is preparing, how can I keep up with it? And that means that the Braxton Hicks contractions are so long because they are painless. And if they are not going to be long, you're going to miss them. So they're so long, they're about 3 minutes long, in order for you to become aware. Oh, yes, look, it's still hard. Maybe I can practice my breathing. Maybe if I drop my shoulders and open my hands and take a welcoming breath for a contraction, a welcoming Braxton Hicks contraction, a welcoming oxygen intake for my baby, because it is the baby that is being squashed by this Braxton Hicks contraction or by a labor contraction. And so you can call it a surge, you can call it a wave, whatever you want to call it. But in the books, we call it a Braxton Hicks contraction. And that means that if the uterus is squeezing, the baby is going to feel the result. And with a Braxton Hicks contraction, these are minor contractions. So the baby, in fact, gets a thrill. Through any kind of uterine squeeze, the placenta gets squeezed, and the blood gets surged through the cord to the baby, and the baby gets a brrr, and then the pressure of the squeeze on the baby's bum sends a trigger down the baby's spine, and again the baby gets a little brrr, and it means that that power from the bum causes the head to be tucked down, the chin comes down onto the chest, and the baby gets sent down into the pelvis to be engaged. So much happens at 36 weeks, the unlocking of the cervix, the movement of the cervix. And if for the first time she checks the cervix at 36 weeks, or he checks the cervix at 36 weeks, or her partner checks the cervix at 36 weeks, and then from a weekly standpoint, they're checking, again, obviously with clean hands, then she can see the changes that are taking place from a hormonal stance as she is approaching her final week or her beginning of her labor. So the nature of Braxton Hicks is start off painlessly. Then by the time she gets to about 38 weeks, she wants to notice, ooh, that was a powerful one. Ooh, my goodness, took my breath away. That stopped me in my tracks. I had to focus on it. I had to breathe. And that, again, is a celebratory time, because now she knows, well, I'm building towards something. What can it be? And it's a moment of excitement. So in her pregnancy, she has one contraction, and then it can be the next day before she has another one. Eventually, she's having them in couples. She gets one contraction followed by another contraction. And nature is saying to her, okay, so you can manage one, but have you thought about having another one soon after? How can you manage two? And then by 38 weeks, she should be having them in clusters. So she's having groups of contractions as her body ripens and develops and moves towards labor proper. And how exciting is that? But it means
I was just about to say. It just is the most wonderful time, that lead up, and your body starting to change with these contractions, and everything starts, and then the mucus plug, and it's just It's magical. It's magical.
It's
And I think
dramatic.
we need to
it's
emphasize, sorry, Danielle, we need to emphasize that listen to your body. Listen. So
It's
go
talking
with
to
it.
you all the time.
Ride the
Yeah.
wave. Get excited. Keep those positive thoughts. And unfortunately, we do have some moms who do fear that. And we need to be able to help them and encourage them and comfort them through that, so that by the time baby comes, there's an excitement, there's this joy of every contraction.
And that's one
And,
of the main differences between the medical model of care when you're pregnant, because you've got a 15-minute opportunity to speak your fears to somebody who's not necessarily interested in the emotional side of pregnancy, or the way that we are encouraging women to come to the midwife, come to the doula, have a relationship with your caregiver throughout the pregnancy and the birth, so that fears are addressed and can be left behind, and her power of being a woman can come to the fore, and she can be a powerful creature. Danielle?
And then speaking on behalf of doulas, sorry, Danielle, I've interrupted you again. Speaking on behalf of doulas, it's never too early to get a doula. It's never too early to engage. Sign her up, put her on speed dial, and know her. So by the time you get to that birth room, you are in sync. You and your doula are in sync, and they can talk you through all your fears and get you ready. Get you ready. Sorry, Danielle, the floor is yours.
You've built up my question and my comments, so much, so in such a lovely way. To have a doula, and a midwife, we're a lot more accessible than your gynae. Your gynae is not going to answer a message. A question that I get quite often, which I was going to ask Sharon, is some moms get worried because they have not experienced any Braxton contractions, and they're now nearing the end of their pregnancy, and they think, is there something wrong with me that I'm not getting these Braxton Hicks contractions? All my friends are getting them, and they hear about this, and I mean, personally, I didn't notice any Braxton Hicks contractions with my baby, and only with subsequent pregnancies was I aware of Braxton Hicks contractions. And so Sharon,
that's only because most mums are not in communion with their bodies with their first pregnancies. Everything is new. Every week is new. Every week is a new encounter. And she's always following up behind the event that has taken place. So what I get my mums to do is, when you're sitting around, even if you're sitting on the computer or you're doing your work from home thing, rest your hand on your belly. Be more aware of what it looks like when you get into the bath. Has it gone hard? Just because you're not feeling a painless thing doesn't mean that it's not happening. So if your belly is going hard at all, you are having a Braxton Hicks contraction. It's always a wonderful thing too. I get the dads who's sitting beside her to put his hand on her belly as well. The two of them sit together watching a movie, whatever, with hands on belly, in communion with the baby, so that he is aware of what a contraction feels like, so that again, when they are powerful and strong, he's able to time them, if that is going to be his job, before they leave for the hospital, if that's where they're having their babies. So that again, he can be aware of how it builds, how it crescendos, and how it falls off the end and goes away afterwards. What does it feel like between these contractions? So the next milestone then is 38 weeks. Now, of course, babies are full term at 38 weeks, and it can be very welcome to be born at 38 weeks. So it means that for some women, the 36 to 38 week cervix ripening thing is very quick. and changes have happened and the baby's ready to come. And that's why if you're checking your own cervix, you're going to be ready for it, not in shock. But so this milestone at 38 weeks is when the placenta goes past its sell-by date. The placenta, is a factory of hormones, and it's got 9 uses for the baby. It's got 9 functions, as far as I can remember, from a very long time ago. But it's a marvelous system of organs that look after the baby. And at 38 weeks, in a healthy woman, it starts to decline in its hormonal production. And so if it is reducing its power, that's one of the triggers for labor. So the baby is triggering the start. My birth is coming up. I can see my birthday coming. Are you ready, mum? Come on, we are a team. Let's get this show on the road. And so the placenta is the next thing. The hormone starts to go into decline, and she will become erratic. And so that means that if she is somebody who's ever experienced premenstrual tension, or if her partner has ever lived with a woman who has experienced premenstrual tension, then there's going to be an exciting time coming up. And what partners need to be aware of is that this is not something that she is doing deliberately. She can go through a whole spectrum of emotion in 10 seconds. She can be laughing and joking with him 1 minute, and then snapping his head off, and then wondering what's the matter with you, and then bursting into tears. You're just nasty to me. What's the matter? And so what we know from science is that women need chocolate. It is not a fallacy that women need chocolate. Women need chocolate. It is a serotonin stimulant. What they don't need is junk chocolate. They don't need diluted chocolate, which is white chocolate or milk chocolate. They need dark chocolate. They need cacao. And so I get my dad then to have a stash of chocolate. Mr. Lint, who is obviously a very wise person, makes those little black balls, the black paper balls, and that's the dark chocolate. So anything from a 70, 75, 80% cacao is a health food. And she just needs the 1 ball. So when you've got good chocolate, you need 1 square of something, and the answer has been found. And calm can be restored. You can take one of those balls and stick it into a mug of coconut milk and add some orange rind to the top. And then she's got a nice hot chocolate while she's lying in the bath trying to find herself, listening to her labor music, lighting her candles, having her aromatherapy, and practicing her breathing with her Braxton Hicks contractions. So that's the image that midwives have of the bath for labor, the calming, the find your center bath, rather than we tend to say on the phone, well, get into the bath. But, a woman thinks, well, here I am sitting in the bath and, nothing's happening. I've been here for 5 minutes, so I've had my bath. She just wants me to be clean in labor. And that's not the thing at all. We want you to come down to your center and do your breathing and work with your body and take control of what is minor at the start of labor. So that's our next milestone, is the placenta starting to go into decline and reduce the hormones of pregnancy. The hormones of pregnancy are maintaining a pregnancy. Now we want to wind them down so that we can start a labor. And so she's going to notice powerful but irregular contractions of the Braxton Hicks. She's going to notice the baby drilling more. Clearly with your first baby, the baby starts to drill, engage, and he's going to keep drilling until the head makes contact with the cervix and pushes the cervix open from the top. And the contractions are pulling the cervix open from the bottom, and the two come together and we have an effective labor. But with a second time mum or anybody who's had a baby before, the muscles are all soft around the uterus. The abdominal muscles are soft. And so she can expand more than she could have with her first baby. And so the baby can engage and disengage and engage and disengage. And so the shape is up and down. The baby's head is in her pelvis 1 minute and the bum is up round her ribs the next. And so if we are again encouraging her, second time mums who have birthed before don't need to be concerned about a head fitting a pelvis, because she's proven the fact that this head can go into this pelvis and this pelvis can produce this baby. But with a first time mum, it's really reassuring for her to know the head can fit into the pelvis. If the head fits into the pelvis, chances are it's going to fit out the other side. So that's why she can celebrate that. When she starts to feel erratic emotionally, hopefully she's taking some oil of evening primrose, and that's a kind thing for her to take for her partner's benefit. And then he needs to be aware that he can do things for her, like not fight with her when she's getting erratic. Don't leave the house and slam the door, drive off in the car and be dramatic, because he doesn't have those excuses. But he could run a bath for her, he could light her candles, he could perhaps take some labor oil if her midwife has produced that for her, or her doula. I'm sure doulas do that too. And and he massage her feet or massage her shoulders, her neck, and produce a hot chocolate for her while she's sitting in the bath with something healthy like cacao and coconut milk, and she doesn't have to get mucusy as a result. And then they can find themselves again and wait until the next episode arrives that brings her closer. And what she has to be aware of, every time she has an episode and it ends, it doesn't go back to the starting point or the unripe place. Oh no, it's gone off, nothing's happened. She has to know her body is resting now in this position until the next episode starts, and she's going to be ripened some more from this point to the next point. And that's why early labor takes us until, depends on your definition, when active labor starts, which is at the moment the definition is 5 centimeters. So she's got erratic but building up towards regular contractions. And that's why if she's looking at, so when do I go into the hospital? How do I know to go into the hospital? And I'm sure we're going to be talking about that next time. Sorry. What we tell her is, if she's phoning the labor ward to say, I don't know if I should come in, I don't know if I'm in labor, then we tell her to go and have a bath. That means a relaxing bath. Fold a towel under your bum, roll a towel behind your neck, sink under the water, light your candles, put your aromatherapy on, do your breathing, put your music on, and then see what are the contractions doing. Because if this is created because she's hypoglycemic, or if this is created because she's nervous and anxious, then it is something that she's misinterpreting. But if she can then relax her body and her mind, then she gets a true picture of what her body is saying. And if this is not labor, the contractions will spread out and become more irregular, in which case she has a pause in the process for her to bring her mind back to, okay, so now I can be more ready when it starts up again. And so if she gets into the bath and the contractions become more clear, become more defined, become more frequent, then it was her stress that was slowing the process down, and we've removed the stress, and so the process can become more organic. Nearly had a slip of the tongue there. And so
it could be true.
Yes, it could. Let's hope so it is. So if she gets into the bath and her contractions are every 5 minutes, that's why we have this milestone of every 5 minutes. And the trouble with a lot of modern mums is that if they have a contraction And then she has another one 5 minutes later. She thinks, oh, that's it. I had
That's
5
it.
minutes. Let's go, because I've seen that in social media. Instead of, if she lies there for an hour and they're coming every 5 minutes still, and she's carbo loaded in the bath, because if she's hypoglycemic, she's going to get all the wrong misinterpretation of what her body is saying because she's hypoglycemic. And then she recovers her sugar levels. Then again, she gets a clear picture of the truth of what her body is saying to her. If the contractions go off because she was hypoglycemic, she wasn't in labor, labor will not stop for any man. So if she has a contraction 15 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, those are erratic, those are irregular, those are frequent but not regular. If she is having contractions like soldiers coming past a post, and she can time, I know when the next one is coming and it arrives on time, that is regular. And if she is having regular contractions every 5 minutes, that is usually an indication to her caregivers that she is about 4 centimeters dilated. And that gives her plenty of time still to take herself into wherever she's going to give birth. Or if she's having a home birth, to start filling the pool, invite a midwife over, that kind of stuff. Then it doesn't mean there's drama. You know, we only see drama connected with birth on social media and on the movies. And that is so sad, because if we saw the true picture of labor and how it does organically produce itself, of course the movie would be so boring, because you know she'd still be having irregular contractions and the thing's finished 3 hours ago. And if she's even started regular contractions, you know, we've got another 6 hours before she's had the baby. So yeah, that's why they speed it up, but it gives women all the wrong impression that you're going to have one contraction, the baby could fall out. So don't drive the car, because babies can fall out at any time. And that means we would see babies falling out all over the place, wouldn't we? She'd be shopping in Woolworths and, oh, another one hits the floor. You know, that would be dangerous for babies and for mothers. So your body is talking to you all the time, through your periods, through your pregnancy, through your sex act, through creating the baby, through preparation for the labor. And so I hope that's what we've been talking about today.
Yes, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Speak to
Danielle's
us.
been very quiet. I do apologize, Danielle.
I always laugh when watching series or movies, and the woman instantly feels this excruciating pain, you know, as she feels her first contraction, and she's screaming all the way to the hospital, and then this baby comes out. And yeah, it's just so interesting how that's how birth is portrayed. That very first contraction is mind-blowingly painful, and she can't walk and she can't breathe, she can't do anything, got to get to the hospital now. And you know, and a lot of I notice a lot of my dads think that, you know, the minute their partner feels that first contraction, oh well, labor started, we've got to go to the hospital.
I always feel a bit bad for Dad.
Those are mothers who are prepared through the medical model, because there is no time for education or preparation. And that is why we are so different in our mums, because they have knowledge and because they are educated as to, you know, that is not normal. If we're looking at nature, the tide comes in so gradually. And of course, women are told that labor is the most painful thing they could ever experience. To me, a trauma pain is a lot more difficult to experience. You're going to break your leg. You had no way of knowing you were going to break your leg today. And so there is only adrenaline. There is only, I've got to stop myself bleeding. I've got to call the hospital. I've got to get to hospital. Whatever they have to do to me to make myself walk again straight. That's what I want. Just do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. But labor is you've got 9 months to think about it. At the end of this process, there will be labor. And through labor, there will be power. And if you are looking at the power of your body, you know, we explore the power of our bodies in so many ways in the modern world. We do yoga workshops where we've got to stand on our head for 3 days. You know, we stand like a tree for 6 hours. You know, how does that feel? We go bungee jumping, we go whitewater rafting just for a thrill, just to see what can I take on. But women are made to feel fearful of labor, which is the most wonderful, miraculous experience that a woman can participate in, and yet we reduce it to why bother.
It's very sad.
It's so important to, you know, explain to moms, you know, that, you know, as Sharon was describing, you know, breaking your leg, or, you know, also I used the toothache. You know, that pain is warning you something is wrong. That pain in your tooth is telling you that there's some kind of decay, there's an infection, and you might need root canal. There is nothing pleasurable about tooth decay. The pain in your leg when you break your leg, it is telling you that there are broken bones, that there could be possible bleeding inside your leg. There is nothing. It's telling you that there is something wrong. And you know, in anything, pain in your stomach, it could be an infected appendix. All of these things, that those pains, it is not a negative pain. It's not telling you there is something wrong. It is telling you that your body is ready to have your baby, and your baby is ready to be born, and that each contraction that you have is one step closer to having your baby. And so if we can shift that mindset, that terrible mindset of the pain, into, wow, that was one more step to
celebrate each contraction.
Why we've changed the word contraction to a surge or a wave, because it's the pain that people are afraid of. But if we were truly to change the word pain to power, of course, for society to experience or to explore the fact that women are so enormously powerful, we don't want to encourage women to think that they are powerful. But this is the power of a woman to bring forth life, the next generation from her body. And if we truly were encouraging women to explore their power, then the world would be a different place, wouldn't it? That's what she's afraid of, you know, for her to be introduced to her power for the first time. She had no idea, as a daughter, as a girl, as a partner, that she's a powerful force. But if you look at the difference between a daughter and a mother is a powerful creature that you're very often afraid of for very good reasons. And, you know, how do you become a mother? It is this process of labor that turns you into that powerful force. Don't mess with me. I will tell you what's wrong with this child, or I'll tell you what this child needs. I am her mother. And that's why it's so important to labor.
I love it. I love how nature has designed us. I love how nature has designed the labor process, the birth process, and we have to trust. And I think that's our word for the day. Trust. Trust your body. Believe in it. Wonderful. Ladies, again, we have just chatted and it's already time to say goodbye. But Sharon, your knowledge is unending. I love listening to you. Thank you. And this is the whole point of when I suggested we do this, you know, get together, talk. and it's come into a podcast and through all our different ideas and thoughts, and we've created this. And I couldn't be more thrilled with what we're getting out of it. I love these podcasts. I thank you both so much. And let's just carry on. Let's get these women to trust, believe, honor, and love their bodies and the birth process.
Yeah.
So we will see you again soon. Any last take-home messages from you two?
Danielle, I think you deserve a moment.
Um, I love what Lisa's saying about trusting the process, and especially those last few weeks, just trusting that, even though you may not be feeling those Braxton Hicks, you may be so busy running around that you don't realize what's happening, but knowing that your body is going, that baby is going to be born. You're not going to be that one in a million, billion, trillion people that is not going to go into labor, and just using that time to prepare your mind as your body does the work preparing itself, and just so that when it is your baby's birthday, that you have prepared yourself as possible, and our partners. So
Yes, and if she's going to be unafraid of her power, if she's going to taste her power, if she's going to work with her power, then he, of course, is witnessing her power also. And that takes their relationship to a whole new level of respect of what she can achieve through her body. It is just dramatic and should never be shelved or thought of something as why bother?
Well,
absolutely.
thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
Bye.